The Nike Alphafly 3 or the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, both super shoes released this year, but which is more efficient? So the goal of this video is to show you guys which shoe I ended up being more efficient in. Now of course we're all individual runners, but it might help you guys when it comes to looking at both of these shoes. What I was looking at in today's video is all about heart rate, cadence and stride length. These are the factors that I tend to take into consideration when I'm doing these sorts of tests. They're very basic, but it's the best that I can do out here when I'm doing my training. So I thought I would showcase a workout that I did where I was switching up the shoes, tell you how I was feeling. So we're going to cut to that shortly, and then we're going to come back here and we're going to dive straight in to the data. So welcome back to another testing video. Alphafly version 3 versus Endorphin Pro version 4. Two super shoes that have been launched this year. Excited to do a little bit of efficiency testing in both of these shoes. So today I have 5x2K. It's a little bit windy and it's a little bit humid, but that's the beauty of testing two shoes in one session. It just means that the weather conditions that I'm testing them in are going to be exactly the same. So if I did this workout this week and next week, I might have different conditions. There might be different variables that are going to affect how I feel on the day. Now in myself, I don't feel particularly great today, a little bit tired, busy weekend, but next Monday or Tuesday, whenever I do next week's double threshold workout, I might feel great. So obviously that's going to have an impact. So it's great to get these tested today. The goal is going to be to do reps 1 and 2 in the Alphafly version 3, which means I'm going to head out on the estate and back. I'm going to stash the Endorphin Pro 4s down here, somewhere down the bank. I'm going to come back, pause the watch quickly, change into the Pro 4s for rep 3 and 4, and then I'm going to see what I want to do in rep 5. I might switch back to the Alphafly because ultimately rep 1 is usually a bit of a warm-up. Heart rate data for rep 1 is never usually good. I usually find it settles in rep 2. Rep 1 is usually a little bit of a warm-up, so I might switch back into the Alphafly 3s for rep 5 to give some good data. We'll see. So that's the goal. It's a little bit windy, so let's get on with it.
Make a life for myself.
$7.26 for that first 2K, around 6-minute mile pace. Nice and relaxed, felt good. Very windy coming this way. Right, so just coming to the end of the second rep and we'll change shoes. Don't feel good today, it's humid, but if I lock into the shoes as standard with Alphafly, nice and cruisy, nice and relaxed, feel good. Another 7.26. First thing you notice when you slip these on, the weight and the aggressiveness. Totally different shoe. Third rep done, first in the Pro 4, 7.21 for these. And yeah, definitely a different feeling from the Alphaflys.
Make a life for myself.
Here we go, just coming to the end of the fourth one. 7.24. I think I'm going to swap back into the Alphas for this last one. Effort levels are lower, paces are lower, humidity's up. Let's see what this last one does for the Alphafly. So we're going to have to do an out and back sort of spin halfway to get back to the bag. Here we go, last one. Right, let's spin here. There we go, 7.23 for that last one. So there we go, getting the cool down done. Pro 4s on the back now. Yeah, gut instincts, we'll go back now and check the stats. But the first thing I saw then was average heart rate for the whole run was 153, which from a double threshold perspective for me, I know is much more where I wanted it to be. So although the paces were slower than last week, I was so much more efficient, and worked the right zone, I should say. So I'm very, very happy, despite not feeling great, and despite it being very humid and quite windy this morning. But my gut reaction with the shoes was the Pro 4s are probably more fun, a bit more edgy, but when I finished rep 4, I wanted to put the Alphafly back on, and I had a choice to do it in either shoe, but yeah, I wanted to go for the Alphafly. And then that 5th rep in the Alphafly, I think it just made me realise how much I enjoy them. So from a feeling perspective, which is most of what it's about, data's great, and we'll dive into that now, but I think the enjoyment came more so from the alphas. So let's get into some of the data. Very exciting to share this. It's actually surprised me slightly, and I'll explain why shortly, but just to clarify, that workout and the whole concept of it wasn't for me to try and slip on the Pro 3s after the Pro 4s after the alphas and then run faster and feel better for running faster. It really was about efficiency in and around the same effort level for each of those reps. That was the goal. It wasn't to try and pick up the pace in either of them. I just wanted to see at the end how things felt. So that was the goal. Let's get into this data. So we'll go through this column by column. Shoes are down the left-hand side in rep order. So Alphafly were 1 and 2, Pro 4 were in 3 and 4, and then Alphafly number 5. So we'll start with the average pace. As you can see, things are perfect there. There really is no difference in the reps. We're talking a 4-second difference from 5:55 up to 5:59 and 3:41 to 3:43 per K. So in terms of pace, very happy. I did exactly what I wanted, kept it exactly the same effort level, which ended up transpiring to be very similar paces. But let's get on to the heart rate. I ignored the average heart rate when it came to the final equations, which we'll get to shortly for rep 1, because as I said, I didn't really want to count it. It's always a warm-up one and it's always slightly lower. So let's start there. We'll show you it anyway. 147 was the average heart rate for the first one, and then 154, 156, 158 and 156. So you can see the Alphafly there has slightly lower average heart rate. The max heart rate is just something I thought I would note down. And as you can see there, quite a difference from the max from the Alphafly to the Pro 4 in reps 2 and 4. We're talking 159 to 166. And cadence is interesting. It doesn't change really at all. They're very equal shoes at that pace. I was really surprised in an Alphafly test video I did recently when my stride length was super long. And again, if we move and open up the next column, you'll see there stride length is exactly the same pretty much, within 0.1 of a meter of each other. So nothing changed there. Basically, what happened was at that effort level, at that pace, the shoes very much metronomically worked the same in terms of cadence, stride length. I didn't get a benefit from the Alphafly from that perspective, which I was surprised. I thought I would maybe bounce a little bit further, considering they're two very different shoes, but no, very equal there. So with all that individual data, let's compile that together into the average. So basically, Alphaflys were 5:58 per mile compared to the Pros at 5:56. K conversions there on the screen as well. The interesting one for me is the average heart rate, 155 for the Alphafly, 157 for the Pro 4s. What you'll notice is the max, there is a good difference there, 3 BPM difference between those two, so it pushed up slightly higher in the Pro 4s, but the cadence and the stride length is very, very similar indeed, so negligible that I wouldn't even look and say one is better than the other there. So that's the overall data. So what I wasn't surprised about is the fact that heart rate wise I was more efficient in the Alphafly. Again, very small numbers, very small difference, but if you think about a 26.2, if you're using these both for a marathon, it all adds up over the distance. So that's quite important to bear in mind over 2K reps. But the thing that did surprise me actually was the stride length and cadence was pretty much exactly the same in both the shoes. Now I know I'm trying to metronomically lock into some kind of effort level here, which I seem to get right, which was great. But I did kind of expect the Alphafly stride length to be a little bit longer. I found I had a great workout last week in the Alphafly 3s, doing some fast testing, and my stride length then, when I was really going going through the gears was the biggest stride length I think I'd ever recorded, like 1.9, and I did a 20 by 1 minute on, 1 minute off workout. All paces were sub 5 minute mile, and that was crazy. I've never seen stride length for me in the 190s, 1.9 plus meters. So for them to be very similar today was interesting. So yeah, that really did surprise me. Now, as I said earlier, you get two very different rides with these shoes. The Pro 4, you've got a plate that swoops much lower to the floor here, so it's closer to the ground. You get a more aggressive feel. Feels a little bit firmer, very Vaporfly-esque in terms of the way it's sculpted and structured. You've got the Alphafly where the plate sits a bit higher in the shoe, so you've got a bit more forefoot cushioning, not to mention the fact you've got two AirPods in there as well. So it's a lot more squishy, it feels less aggressive, but you can see two different shoes here in terms of the edginess of this one. That's what I said when I put it on. It came up slightly less efficient than the one that had slightly more cushioning in the forefoot and felt less aggressive, but is more of a cruise. It's designed very much for that 26.2. I feel like this one is designed for probably a bigger range of races. Definitely something I'd love to test out in a 5 and 10K. But same with this one. When I tested it last week in the speed, I was absolutely shocked with how good it was, how good it felt. And I think overall, I just can't look past the fact that this one is better than most of the shoes that I'm testing at the moment. Now, I hope that if you've made it this far into the video, you've kind of appreciated the test, but also take it with a little pinch of salt, because of course, this is the best type of testing I can do. I can't go into a lab and test these things meticulously. All I can do is swap shoes when I'm out there to get the same heat, get the same variables basically that I would, rather than doing one run 1 week and one the next. Don't get me wrong, I'll continue to do that type of testing, but where I can, if I have longer workouts, I do prefer to do this because I do feel like I mitigate any sort of risk of having different variables in there, and obviously it's just a bit of fun as well. But for me, as I said, having just a bit of fun meant that the Alphafly just did edge it for me. I look at the data, it didn't surprise me with the heart rate and stuff, it did surprise me with the cadence, but what I have to look at the end of the day is the fact that which one did I kind of prefer running in a little bit more, and it did come down to the Alphafly. I did just prefer this one. I've seen a mixed bag of reviews of this, but I've got to be honest with you, it seems to be a shoe that's really working for me. But don't worry, because I will be testing this thing out in a race as well soon. I've got a fair few races coming up over the coming months, so these shoes are both definitely going to be getting a lace up and a test on whatever distance it might be, somewhere between 5K and 10K. But yeah, for me, this one just takes the crown, and yeah, thoroughly enjoying both of these shoes. So I'd love to hear from you guys what your favourite shoe is. Have you got either of these two shoes? Have you got both, one or none? Or if you're looking to get one of them, what are your thoughts on both of these shoes? Do you work with the type of shoe where the plate is slightly lower to the ground, or do you prefer a plate that's slightly higher up where you've got a little bit more forefoot foam? Do you prefer a cruiser, or do you prefer something a little bit more edgy? Be great to hear from you down there in the comments. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, of course, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one.